I just want to say what an honor it is to spend one of your precious last days as an undergrad at Boston College with you all today. I know I can hear the groans and the hearts beating. I mean, we're in Bapst, and you can hear every movement in this room, right? And what the movement in your hearts are right now, that's anticipation. And why wouldn't it be? You have the rest of your lives ahead of you. You have a whole lifetime. And so what does that mean that you have been here at this Jesuit Catholic University in Chestnut Hill? So my boss, the dean of the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, Father Greg Kelcher, likes to quote Father Hans Klovenbach, one of his Jesuit brothers. Father Klovenbach once said, "The measure of our Jesuit universities lies in who our students become." And I want to emphasize that he said who our students become, not what you become. What you would become would refer to your job or your title or your status or perhaps your salary range. What Father Klovenbach was referring to are the lived values and commitments of us alumni as we move out into the world. Educated men and women for and with others for a just society, for the greater glory of God. That's why we're all here, and that's how we go from here. This is the responsibility of a Jesuit university. And Boston College has been engaging you in this process since your admissions process. Do you remember getting a brochure like this? Maybe your admissions counselor brought it to your high school, or perhaps you picked up one for yourself in Devlin Hall. And it says, explore the questions that matter most. And so what are these questions? Let me give you a hint. There's 3 of them. 3 key questions, as we say. You've probably heard them before, but we'll flip to page 1 to find out what they are. And of course, they're Father Heim's special questions for us. What brings you joy? What are you good at? And what does the world need you to be? Where else have you seen these questions? Not just in the admissions packet. Where else have you seen them lately? Or heard about them? Come on. In the dorms, right? I was walking through the mods the other day. They're on the side of the mods. They're big and huge as you walk into 2150, right? Where else have you seen them? Or heard about them? Okay, CTKers, raise your hands. Come on. Those of you in Capstone, probably in Perspectives, let's throw Pulse in there. The Core, come on, right? You've heard them many times in the course of your 4 years. Father Himes used these 3 questions to help us get a handle on the process of what we refer to as vocational discernment, helping us to understand that coming to one's vocational calling is not as simple as waiting for a lightning bolt to illuminate an otherwise shadowy path. Discovering your calling requires inquiry and intentionality. And I've noticed in my 25 years plus teaching at Boston College that students are anxious to answer these questions. Every year, I have roughly 40 pre-major advisees in the College of Arts and Sciences. And then I have a handful of sophomores who haven't made a leap yet. You know who you are. And almost to the last one, they'll sit down in my office and quickly admit that they do not know what their passion is, what their vocation is to be. As if I asked them that question. And I do my best to not sound patronizing, but I simply confirm, of course you don't. How many 18-year-olds know what they are called to do in their lives? Fewer, but still many seniors come in and admit the same thing, but more heightened anxiety. You seniors feel the clock ticking and the gong of commencement day on the first day of classes in August. In fact, most of you who don't have jobs yet are worried that you're simply out of luck. I mean, do you think you're really not employable? I can guarantee you that BC grads get jobs. Our faculty are not worried about you getting jobs. Okay, so it might not happen by Monday. But did you know BC boasts that 96% of the class of 2024 was employed in graduate school or doing service within 6 months of graduation? That's a pretty great stat. But are you also aware that the average lifespan of a first job is 13 months? Those of you who have been in my Capstone class, in my Courage to Know class, you know that I always said 18 months. The new stat is in. 13 months. You're going to have to do this all over again. That means plenty of college graduates are leaving their jobs in less than a year. Gone are the days when your grandparents entered the workforce and signed onto a company with the intention of staying until they retired, or even 10 years. 13 months. One thing is for certain, our global economy and technological innovations are changing at a pace that our society has never seen before. Some of our students will find jobs in the next few years that don't even exist today. So you might be nervously wondering how one is to prepare for a world that is so quickly changing and evolving. And what about relationships? A vocation is not simply a job or a career. It's a calling to purpose through which we make meaning in our lives, as a spouse, as a partner, as a parent. It gives me no greater joy than to hear my students tell me that they want to be partners for life. They want to be parents. That means they're committed to meaningful and loving relationships. If there's anything this world needs more of right now, it's meaningful and loving relationships. And so is revealed to you, to us, the value of our Jesuit education. It's the purpose of this education to teach us, not to teach us what to think, but how to think as we navigate our lives in this ever-changing world. It starts with a question during one experience that finds relevance in another experience and continues through a process of seeking answers that leads to asking more nuanced questions, requiring additional sources and input. With a core curriculum as broad as BC's, I am sure that you once registered for a course that you would have never taken unless it filled a requirement. And yet it taught you to consider new ways of knowing, tapped interests that you never knew you had, and inspired you to stretch yourself in ways that you could have never imagined. Maybe the light became brighter while serving dinner at Pine Street Inn, or at the border of the DR and Haiti, immersed in a conflict between these two nations that share one island. Perhaps it was nurtured by a friend who has seen you at your best and your worst and loves you, all of you. More often than not, I meet students who are desperate to find their passion in a course of study, in a club commitment, and in every new relationship, asking themselves, is this the one that's going to light my path? I have no doubt that you are truly committed to becoming your truest self. However, as one of my favorite speakers, Parker Palmer, once wrote, vocation does not come from willfulness. It comes from listening. He goes on to say, vocation does not mean a goal I pursue. It means a calling that I hear. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen to the truths and the values at the heart of my own identity, not the standards by which I must live, but the standards by which I cannot but live if I am living my own life. So here's my hot take, everyone. We are not meant to answer these three questions during our undergraduate years. Rather, these experiences, investigations, and questioning set you up for the practice of gathering and examining the data that can lead you to living the life that, as St. Ignatius says, reveals the stirrings of our hearts. As you move through life considering these lofty questions, I wanted to encourage you to approach them with what we at BC call the 3 Bs. Okay, past CTKers, Capstone. The first B is to be attentive. Make it a practice to take stock in your life. The questions to be answered by being attentive are the who, the what, the where, and the when of your experiences. Who am I with when I'm feeling my most alive? What commitments make me feel burdened or leave me uninspired? Where am I when I feel anxious or overwhelmed? When do I feel that I am contributing? By being attentive to both the positives and the negatives of our lives, we can see the path be revealed in front of us. It's the path that leads us to our most integrated selves. What trends do you notice in your experiences? It is amazing what hints and clues the practice of being attentive can offer us as we listen for our vocational calling. And being attentive is only the start. The second B is to be reflective. This is the practice of asking why. Once you have some data, ask yourself, why are these trends happening in my experience? The most important why that comes from reflection is, why do I keep myself from listening to my life in the ways that it's already showing me? And finally, the third, that's be loving. It's the action step. It's the how of what we are to do with our lives. For those of us who believe in God, it's the recognition that God so loved the world that he gave each of us life, a life that is meant to share our love with the world. And even if you're not comfortable with God language, I think we can all agree with the power and the value of loving the world in such a way that we are each to share our good gifts with it and those around us. So how are you to share the joy of a beautiful, thought-provoking art in the world? Perhaps as a freelance artist, creating public art. But you could also be a playwright, pushing the boundaries of theater and social commentary. Or a designer, creating innovative spaces for sustainable consumer goods. Or as a parent, sharing your love of museums and performance with your child. How might one protect the dignity of those who themselves find themselves on the margins of society? As an elected official proposing new legislation? As a physician in a neighborhood clinic? As a journalist bringing a voice to those who have been overlooked or silenced? As a neighbor who regularly checks on their elderly friends? The hows are endless. And that fact, I believe, is the root of the problem for the Generation Z, for the Gen Zers like yourselves. There's much work to be done, in so many ways to do it, in so many places to do it in, that you become paralyzed by your options and by all of the well-meaning voices. That means your parents and me and your faculty and friends telling you and sharing opinions about what you can and should do with your education and your one precious life. The 3 questions that BC presents to you illuminate a path for a lifetime of data gathering. The 3 Bs offer us a way to practice listening to our lives speak. And what can be more important than practice? It is the point of practice to get better at something. In fact, regardless of their level of talent, skillful people never truly give up the art of practicing. To an artist, it's rehearsal. To an athlete, it's doing reps and going to the weight room and going to take swings. Curious couples, they date. And we refer to the work of the doctor or a lawyer as their medical and legal practices. Discernment requires continued practice. I'm sorry to report that we don't simply put our lives through this exercise once, find the answer, and then settle in for the rest of our days. You see, listening to your life speak is a lifelong process because circumstances change. Markets rise and fall. Technology and development marches on. Our health ebbs and flows. As they say, change is the only constant. And even by practicing the art of vocational discernment in the midst of a liberal arts education that offers you both breadth and depth of knowledge, you're not likely to travel a straight path. But as I stated, upon arrival, BC gave you a welcome gift. This present is also your parting gift to carry with you on a journey beyond Boston College. Don't worry, you don't have to make space in the family SUV on your way back to New Jersey on Monday night. You don't have to send it off to Minnesota. You don't need to ship it, pack it, but carry it in your heart and in your minds. Your gift is the 3 questions, to be your guide to continue practicing attention, reflection, and love. I think I can speak for my colleagues that we believe you're well equipped to go from Boston College into this ever-changing world with the habit of discernment in your journey to becoming. Your best is definitely yet to come.